Hi, Matt. Thank you so much for taking out the time to share your experience of the 8-week sales mastery course with other firm owners that might be considering enrolling with us. And I'd love it if you can just start out by sharing where you're at in the country and what does your firm specialize in as far as services?
Absolutely. So we're located League City, Texas, in the Houston area. We don't specialize in any specific area, but we do tax planning, tax, obviously preparation, consulting across the board with many different industries.
Awesome. So before you had enrolled in the 8-week sales mastery course and joined us here at the Abundant Accountant, what were things like in your firm as it related to your sales or missed revenue or your pricing or anything related to the sales process in your firm? What were you most challenged about or most stressed about?
It- the whole process was stressful because there really was no organization. It was a complete disaster. And I had let it build up that way. It was completely my fault for letting it get that way. But we were just taking on every single engagement. You hear the old verbiage of just being stuck in a hamster rat race. That was the definition of where I was at a year ago. There was no planning. It was kind of like just an everyday impromptu. We'll take on as much as we can take on, and the only way to grow a firm is to take on more. And unfortunately, what that meant for me was to just work more and more and more.
Yeah,
So,
that's a recipe for disaster, huh?
yes,
So,
ma'am.
what were your stress levels like, and when was the moment you decided to do something about it? Where you're like, okay, I need help.
Yeah, stress levels were off the charts. I mean, I worked all kinds of overtime, kind of an average about 60 hours a week, all year long.
Okay.
And really just kind of hit home whenever, when you go home and your kids ask you where you've been, over and over and over again, and you just don't have time to prioritize the things in life that need prioritizing, like family, coaching little league, baseball and soccer, and doing things with the kids that that life, that warrants, the important things.
Yeah. And so realizing that 60-hour weeks were no longer going to be a fit for you and you were sick of the kids asking you these questions, and you realized you couldn't go this way anymore, was there a tipping point for you where you're like, okay, enough is enough. I got to make a change? And how'd you realize it was like a problem with your sales or your sales process? Because I think a lot of firm owners,
Mhm.
Matt, don't realize they don't have a sales process, right? You
Mhm.
just keep doing what you've been doing, working
Keep
60
working.
hours a week. Like, what was that moment or tipping point for you?
Right. So it was about this time last year at the AICTP conference in Detroit where, I was like, I got to do something or I'm going to throw in the towel. I'm going to raise the white flag, sell off the firm and
Uh-huh.
do something else. That's where I was at, with my professional career. I had lost all ambition,
Mm.
and desire to, to just, to go and do, thought about bringing on a new client really just disgusted me. So that's where I was at.
Wow. And that's just I didn't know it was that bad. Wow. So you decided to enroll with us and took that leap. Uh I guess now looking back, what shifted for you? Like what had you say enough's enough? You're gonna invest with us, you're gonna go through all the process, do all the work. And then also, like, how do you feel now looking back?
Yeah, so I think that whenever you're desperate for anything, you'll make drastic moves to change things. But I always said I needed to change things, but really just putting the kind of the rubber to the road, if you will, on making those decisions. It was hard work going through the process. It took time and effort. I'm not going to lie. It was hard to make those decisions because I'm not used to making those decisions.
Yeah.
But at the same time, looking back, I'm glad I did. It has relieved, it's revived me. I found a newfound kind of energetic stance in the industry as a whole and really just within my business, not taking on, being very picky with who we take on,
Yeah.
really just to make sure it's a beneficial type of process and really just learning that through the sales process has helped with kind of just finding what we really wanted, what I really wanted as it pertains to every engagement, moving forward.
Yeah. And what does your family and your kids say now? I mean, I'm gonna assume we're not working 60-hour weeks and wanting to throw in the
Right.
towel anymore. You're very, we saw each other last week. You're vibrant, you feel so light and energetic. But I'd love it if you could share, like, how do you feel, like, just in general and like with your family?
Yeah, and it's hard not to get emotional about it because you see the detriment of what you put on other people by, servicing in the industry that we service. I've heard my wife say it many a times, you care about the clients more than you care about me. And
Ooh.
that really, it's kind of like a dagger to the heart. And that's not what I want. Not what I believe. It's never believed that. But at the same time, too, actions speak louder than words. So it's not been perfect. At the end of the day, tax season is still tax season. The industry is still the industry, but it's more organized, it's more processed, it's more streamlined. It makes it easier for us to make those decisions to move things in the right directions, knowing that, just not trying to make the same mistakes again, learning from those mistakes and implementing the things that we've learned over the course of the sales process.
Yeah. No, I love that. And your wife's happier and your kids are happier?
Absolutely, yeah. So at the end of the day, I was able to, during tax season, I worked 200 hours less than I did last tax season in a 3.5 month period, and never thought that would be possible. And coached my son's soccer team. Just had more time to implement the things that needed to be implemented and
Oh,
spend time, quality time, with the kids and with the wife and those things. They are thrilled. I don't think they know the intricacies behind every decision that has been made or
right.
was made, but they do see the difference.
I'm so happy and proud of you. Oh, makes me so happy. I love what I do every day, Matt. So thank you. I'm curious if you could share, kind of looking back, did you have any initial skepticisms or thoughts that this might not work for you when you first initiated a conversation with us when we met a year ago or you met Denise? Like, what were your initial fears, skepticisms, or wondering, like, well, is this going to work for me?
Well, I think with anything inherently, you're going to have those fears. Specifically with me, I don't pertain to label myself as a marketing sales guru. But at the same time, too, I was just desperate at a point, so I was willing to do anything. So the apprehensions of what I had, I think it was I'm just pushing my desires across the board because that's where I was at. I'm ready to either go all in
Yeah,
or go all out.
that's where you
That's
were
where I
at.
was at.
Yeah.
That's true.
So I know you saved 200 hours, you reduced the amount of work in a 3-month period. Do you have any other wins or successes you want to share that the goals you achieved or your prices increased or you created more additional revenue than what you had
Yeah,
in the past that you'd love to share?
absolutely. Yeah. So at the end of the day, we have more money in the bank account than we had at this point last year, doing less work. So at the end of the day, the product and the results were, more money and less time, and that was always the goal going into it because obviously money is not everything. Peace of mind is more on the forefront, and kind of leaving the legacy of what you do in your business and who you work with and but by all means, at the end of the day, the wins have been far outweighed the losses and the detriment, the hard decisions that it would make to let some clients go that I just didn't think. Looking back last year, I thought that would be a harder type pill to swallow, but now I totally see it's worth it. Just by looking at where we're at production wise for this year compared to last year, and then also just the time that I've saved.
Amazing. Just so happy for you. So, Matt, if you could go back and tell your younger self or another firm owner that might have talked to us, but said, oh, I'm just going to wait or whatever. Um, and you've talked to enough people prior, probably, and you did your due diligence. You're a very detailed person. What would you tell your younger self, if you can recall back then, for the person that didn't know Michelle and Denise or the abundant accountant, or that you had a sales problem, that you needed to do the 8-week sales mastery course and really figure this out? What would you tell your younger self now that you've been through the program, you've made all these changes? you have more money in your bank account, you're working less, your family sees you more. What would you share with that person right now?
I would say get your ass in there and do it. It's worth it. It's that simple.
Anything else?
Um, just it's hard work. Like I said, it's not easy to make decisions, to let go of clients, to change your sales processes. But at the same time, too, it's all worth it. It's worth the work. It's worth the investment. It's worth the time to put in because really gonna to reap the benefit on the back end.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you, Matt, so much for taking out the time to share your experience with me and, others who might be considering enrolling in the 8-week sales mastery course or joining us here at the Abundant Count family. Is there anything else you'd love to share that I just didn't ask you that you feel compelled you want to share?
No, I think it's just hard not to get emotional about, because it's just, I was in such a bad place last year to get to a point where, with your help and with Denise's help, that y'all have helped me tremendously. And I really can't thank you enough.
Oh, thank you. This is what we do every day and we love it because of this, and when we see the potential in people and we see what you can be doing so differently and drastically, this is what it's about because you should have the freedom, you should have the free time, and you should still be making a lot of money. And that's what you got. So I'm so glad that everything is, completely has done a 180 for you.
Thank you.